After the announcement that was made by Dr. Peter Phillips about resigning from his post as opposition leader and president of the People's National Party in September, many shared the sentiment that it was Damian Crawford's time to shine. Of course, many believed that this opportunity had arrived just in time for Damian Crawford to become the next president of the People's National Party. And Damian Crawford had previously expressed his interest in becoming the president of the People's National Party, and he had interest in contesting the presidential elections. However, the last statement that came from Damian was that he was in consultation with persons who could give him the best advice. But no one has heard any statements as to whether or not he is still interested in pursuing the presidential elections of the People's National Party. After the party lost in September, Damian Crawford appeared to be very quiet. He was primarily responsible for drafting the PNP's manifesto. This manifesto was called the Wealthy Plan, or the People's Pledge. And he is one of 4 PNP vice presidents, and he had invested a lot of time in 2020 trying to get the party to a place where they could replace the Jamaica Labour Party. His manifesto that he created for the People's National Party spoke to water, jobs, internet access, land and housing, and it also placed a heavy focus on youth being the primary front runners for the next People's National Party's government. Crawford played a critical role in communicating the new manifesto for the party. He had to be answering questions about what were the plans of the party if they were to form the next government. He was defeated, however, but we had expected him to rise to the challenge and take on the presidential elections of the People's National Party. He is also still feeling battered because he lost to Anne-Marie Vaz in Portland Eastern in 2019. He also has been quoted as saying that the campaign has taken a toll on him and it may have stolen some of his passion. The PNP seems to have taken on quickly with the vision of Mr. Crawford. They believe that he is a prospective leader of the party and his future lies with the PNP. So therefore they have continued to invest in him. And of course, the relevant persons who understand politics, political tactics and strategies can understand why Mr. Crawford is seen in such a brilliant light. Many have described him as possessing characteristics that were seen in former Prime Ministers Michael Manley, Portia Simpson Miller, and P.J. Patterson. Many persons have said that he has the charisma of Michael Manley and Simpson Miller, and that he possesses the intelligence of P.J. Patterson. Crawford is a people person, and he has conversations easily. He has the ability to motivate and inspire a crowd. He is an advocate, and he shows great empathy and sympathy for persons who are at the lesser end of the social ladder, for those who feel marginalized, or for those who are deprived of resources. Crawford is always the man to be advocating for them to get some support and resources. Well, However, sometimes he speaks out of turn, but he's nonetheless a brilliant man. He has had 2 failed attempts. He failed as the Member of Parliament for St. Andrew East Rural, and of course he failed to get that seat during that by-election for Portland Eastern. Crawford has always been a popular person, and he's one of the most popular of the 4 PNP vice presidents. And of course, he would have retained many votes during the last annual conference. And Dr. Peter Phillips has maintained that he is still appointing Crawford as a senator, even though he did not run for a seat in the general elections. So therefore, if Dr. Peter Phillips were to choose to vacate his post as a Member of Parliament for St. Andrew East Central, then Damian Crawford would contend for that seat. He would challenge any fellow PNP member to become the next Member of Parliament for St. Andrew East Central. And that would only be right. But for that, it seems like Mr. Phillips is not vacating that position at this time. We believe that Damian Crawford should have offered himself as a potential leader for the People's National Party. He should be the 3rd member that is contesting for the presidency of the PNP because he is competent and qualified to do so. Crawford's subdued and quiet response to the PNP's defeat at the September 3rd general elections will pass. And of course, he will rise again and he will challenge in the future for the presidency of the People's National Party. But however, we are still waiting for him to make a move at this time. At the beginning, early in September, there were names that we had in mind. There was Peter Bunting, there was Norman Horn, there was Michael Phillips, there was even Julian Robinson. And of course, everyone was waiting for Damian Crawford to throw his hat in the PNP's presidential ring. But so far, we have not heard anything from Peter Bunting. Norman Horn has said that he was no longer interested in contesting the presidential elections. And also, the same came from Julian Robinson and Michael Phillips. They had renounced the statements made about their interest in pursuing the presidential elections of the People's National Party. But we are still waiting to hear from Damian Crawford. But it seems that we may never hear because November 7th is coming. The last statement that he made was that he was in consultation with persons who could give him some advice about taking on this challenge. He's very young and exuberant and energetic, and of course he would be the perfect person to lead the People's National Party into the best future that they would have, because they need to move towards incorporating the youths within the PNP into the party so that they can ensure that they have a future and a legacy that will continue among the generations to come. As many are saying that Mark Golding may be the best person to lead the party, and while others are also saying that Lisa Hanna may be the best comrade to take on Andrew Holness and wrestle power from the Jamaica Labour Party, Mark Golding is also of the belief that it is no challenge, and if he were to become the next president of the People's National Party, then he would easily take state power from the Jamaica Labour Party and chase Mr. Holness and the JLP from the government. But that remains to be seen. We do not yet know who will become the next president of the People's National Party. Currently, Mark Golding and Lisa Hanna are the only challengers, but we are still waiting for Damian Crawford to do something. Whilst many believe that Mark Golding may be the best person to take on the leadership of the PNP because he has the ability to unite all PNP members, many also say that he may not be able to energize the PNP and that he may not be a formidable challenge for Andrew Holness. Lisa, however, is believed to be the best PNP member to take on Mr. Holness because she holds some level of popularity among Jamaicans as well. But many persons also say that Lisa Hanna has no substance and that if she cannot unite the councillors within the South East Senan constituency, then she will not be able to bring any form of unity to the People's National Party. So we come back to Damian Crawford. Crawford is a vice president of the People's National Party. Therefore, he was next in line for the presidency of the People's National Party. It's not about getting financing. Of course, a candidate like Damian Crawford will be able to energize the PNP. He will be able to attract votes from the youths of Jamaica. And of course, he's honest and he has the right characteristics and he has the right focus. His focus is on elevating persons and empowering people and eliminating poverty and trying to get persons to a place where they can earn and grow financially. If Damian Crawford chooses not to contest the presidential elections of the PNP, then of course he may choose to support Lisa Hanna. But if Lisa Hanna does not win, then he would have to deal with the consequences that would follow if Mark Golding won. And if he chooses to support Mark Golding, then he would have to deal with the consequences if Lisa Hanna were to win the presidency of the People's National Party. Some information coming out of the PNP's internal polls about the best candidates for the leadership of the PNP. It seems 23% of the public thought that Damian Crawford would be a good leader for the PNP, whilst another 37% believe that whilst Peter Bunting did not have a seat, he would be a good leader. For the persons who had won their seat, Lisa Hanna came out with 34% in that poll, whilst Golding took 26% and Julian Robinson managed to get 14% in those polls as well. So Hanna, Golding and Robinson were the three leading parliamentarians to take over the leadership of the PNP. Bunting and Robinson decided not to take on the challenge to become the next president of the People's National Party, and Damian Crawford could still have taken up the challenge because he had the support, and he still has the support of those who would have supported Robinson and Peter Bunting. Sure, he would also be able to get support from the PNP youth organization. So, if he were to decide to become a challenger for the November 7th presidential elections, it seems that he would have support coming from all corners of the People's National Party. You would have the Rise United team. You would have those who would have supported Julian Robinson. And of course, he would have the support of the PNP youth organization. The fact that they allowed him to write or author their manifesto, it means that they believe in his abilities and they believe in his ability to write even future policies and for him to direct and guide the future of the PNP. So it is without a doubt that we still believe that Damian Crawford should be contesting the November 7th presidential elections. Your comments down below. Do you also believe that Damian Crawford possesses all of the necessary skill sets, charisma, intelligence, and leadership qualities to take on the presidency of the People's National Party. Thanks for watching. Remember to subscribe.